Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC. Today, we celebrate the inaugural launch of Just Minding My Business Media, LLC's The Digital Magazine Experience. We have with us some of the contributing authors to the first of quarterly editions of the magazine that will make its first appearance in the digital world on this Friday, September 30th at noon, high noon. That's when we press the button. So right now we welcome Jason Fella. And Jason Fella is a voice actor who lends his voice to building awareness of the products and missions of businesses, small and large, persons with website video projects, and much more. He specializes in medical voiceovers, which requires specialized knowledge and training. So if you have a website video or a radio commercial you would like to do and have no idea how to go about it, Jason Fella is a person to contact. Today, he is a contributing author in the launch of Just Minding My Business Media, LLC's The Digital Magazine Experience. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, welcome, Jason. So tell everybody, first of all, how did you get on this road? How did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, about 10 years ago, I had a Japanese friend who was teaching English to Japanese people, and she asked me if I would be willing to narrate some stories for her students. And I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to. So I narrated some children's stories and some news clips and stuff. And when she first listened to it, she said, "Is that you?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And she said, "Wow, you sound so professional, you should do this." And I said, "You think?" And so I did some for her at the time, and then another Japanese friend who was also teaching some students. So I did some things for her. And then I kind of took a break from it. I didn't think too seriously at that time about getting into it. And then about over the years, I started having some health issues where I was unable to work at normal jobs. And so I was trying to think of, well, what can I do from home, basically, that I could help to support myself. And so I decided to get into it, narrating audiobooks. That's kind of how I started. And I did about 27 audiobooks, and then realized that was really hard work. And so then I started getting into the other forms of voiceover that are generally much easier and much, they pay better compared to how much work you have to put into it, And so I just, I got some training. I got like a voice coach and said, okay, where do I begin? And then he gave me some homework to do, some things to kind of train myself up with. And then I just started kind of looking around at, there's various websites that you can go to for auditions and things like that, or you can contact people on your own. And so I would just join some of these websites, and then I'd start getting, I'd audition quite a bit, and then sometimes 10 or 15 auditions a day. And then finally you start getting jobs, they start kind of trickling in,
Yeah. So, wow, that's awesome. Because I tell you, let me just ask, was that something that you planned to do?
No, I never would have given this a thought in the world. Except for, my grandma, growing up, she used to always, when we'd call her in Michigan, she'd say, "Oh, you've got such a great, strong voice. You should be in radio." She would always tell me that. But I always thought, well, she's my grandma. She's biased, But then I got to thinking, well, no, I have heard that quite a few times I tended to hear it more from women that I've known over the years. "Oh, you've got a great voice, But it's not anything that I really would have thought of doing had I not been probably in the situation that I was in, where I was trying to figure out what to do to make a living from home,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would have really thought of it.
Wow. And that's so funny how we fall into things. It's usually under circumstances. It's usually never planned. And we just fall right into it and then figure out, wow, what was I waiting on? But it's one of those things, when it's time, it's time.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it for me was that I was also a musician for years, and so I already had a lot of the equipment, right? I had the software and the computer and the I didn't have a good microphone initially because but I bought a good microphone at some point, and so I was kind of already familiar with that side of it. So it wasn't like a completely new thing that I had to jump into, but yeah, it took a little know-how. Like Ruth can probably tell you, when you first start getting into this, you're like, well, okay, where do I begin? What do I do? I don't know what to do, And so that took a little bit to figure out, but
So you're right.
but
Yes.
the work itself isn't generally overly difficult. It's more getting the skill set that you need to do the work. That was the difficult part.
Mhm.
Um,
Totally agree with that.
um,
I like too what you said about, where do you begin? Because so many people during the pandemic decided they were going to jump in and become voice actors. And, they're flailing at this point. They're drowning because they don't know how to get into the pool. And then they try to jump into the
Mhm.
deep end of the pool and they're drowning. They bought all the equipment, they spent X number of dollars, but they have nothing coming in. So I think that's a really important point, finding your entry point. And sometimes it has to be almost in an intern position for some people who
mhm.
have no background at all. But see, you were a musician, so you had some ground. You were used to using your voice. But these are people, a lot of people don't have that. And they jump in, they buy all the equipment, and then they have the equipment, and there they are.
Yeah.
So, and finding I hate that word niche, but that's true. You have to find out, where does my voice fit? Am I a commercial person? Am I an animator? Someone who can do animation? Or do I have sort of an news anchor voice?
Exactly.
Where do I fit in? And sometimes on your own, you can't do that without a coach.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the other things I want to point out, because you just kind of touched on it, is that a lot of people say, well, you have to have a great voice to be a voice actor, but you don't. And what I tell people is, no, there is room for every single voice. There's guys that are looking for the everyman, the guy next door, or they might be looking for a little bit more of a quirky, kind of a dorky type voice, or you just don't, there anything.
Gravelly, squeaky.
Hmm.
You know?
You don't have to be a James Earl Jones to be in the business.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Who was it? Mel Blanc? Was it
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
great cartoon artist, animator?
He was the father of voiceover.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
really.
was
He really was.
the
Wow.
What's Bugs
grandfather.
Bunny? Bugs Bunny. Yeah. And so many other characters that he portrayed. And it was a fluke for him. It was just like he started playing. It was like, okay, so you want me to sound like what character?
Yeah, and I heard a quote. I don't remember the exact quote, but this was the gist of it. That I just absolutely love it. It said, one of his contemporaries, it was quoted as saying, "There's only about 100 people in Hollywood. Everyone else is Mel Blanc."
I love it. I love it. That's excellent. What a good one. I like that a lot.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, we are so honored and grateful that you said yes to our first edition, and we're looking forward to having you every edition, bringing your expertise and helping people to understand the world of voiceover. So we are honored and glad that God brought you to our door. And
Mhm.
thank you for becoming a part of the JMMB family.
You're
Yes,
welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that when the magazine launches, that you head on over to Jason's article and take a look. And we also got some good goodies in there from Jason, where you can actually hear his work.
Mhm.
So thank you again, Jason. We are most appreciative.
You're very welcome.